G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And Accord enthusiasts will be well aware that there are a couple of Ukrainian chaps that have figured out a way to tune the factory ECU in these Accords and other Hondas as well, to increase your redline to nearly 8,000 RPM, drop your VTEC to about 4,000 and improve some of your fueling to help make more power and torque. And as I've found with mine, if you pair it up with a number of other modifications like an intake, a header and an exhaust system, you can make over 150 wheel kilowatt on the factory ECU, which makes for a very fun driving experience. But in recent times, I've had a few people asking me to compare two very popular ECU tunes for these cars. One of them by the name of Serge Bo, who is quite common around the world, and the other one is by Reflash Club, or what is known in New Zealand as KFlash NZ. And today we're going to be putting it to the test. We've got my car on a dyno up here in Auckland. We're going to run the cars on both ECUs and see what the numbers show. And then after that, I'm going to take my car for a drive, swap the ECUs halfway through and discuss some of the differences in the way the car drives. Alrighty, here we go. Let's see how it does on the KFlash ECU. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen, the results are in, and it is very interesting to say the least. This is what it looks like. In the blue is the KFlash tune, with the dark blue being the power and the light blue being the torque, and the red is the Serge tune, with the dark red being the power and the light red being the torque. The obvious differences that most will be able to spot straight away is that the KFlash tune has the rev limiter set at about 8,000 RPM, whereas the Serge one has it at 7,800, and the KFlash tune engages VTEC at about 4,000 RPM, whereas the Serge one engages it at 4,800. But other than those sort of quite obvious differences, the only reason why these lines are in different places is down to the quality of the tunes at hand, how they use the VTC angles to their advantage to produce more torque down low, and how they use the ignition timing and the fueling of the engine to keep the AFR ratio right where it should be to help make more power over a wider range of RPM. Below 4,000 RPM, they're pretty similar. The KFlash one is slightly higher, but no one's really flooring their car at 2,000-3,000 RPM anyway. However, at 4,000 RPM, things change because, of course, the KFlash tune hits VTEC and builds a very steady amount of torque all the way up to just over 250 Newton meters and builds up to 120 kilowatt, which happens to be 40 Newton meters more and 20 kilowatt more than the Serge ECU, which is pretty incredible really, and it holds on to that power and torque bump all the way until 7,000 RPM, where they finally converge again. And so pretty much there's no other way of putting it, the KFlash ECU is producing more power and more torque than the Serge ECU, which naturally is going to translate into a faster car. So there we go, that's kind of the objective realities about these two tunes out of the way. If you're wondering where I got those dyno pulls done, I did it at a place called House of Boost. I'll have the link to his place down in the description if you want to do a few pulls yourself or get your car dyno tuned. Now I'm going to go and take my car for a drive and swap the ECUs halfway through and discuss some of the more subjective realities about the way my car drives on these two different tunes. So now there was one other difference that I need to discuss in regards to these tunes, and that is that the KFlash tune is a closed loop tune, whereas the Serge tune above about 4500 RPM is an open loop tune. The advantage of not reading what the O2 sensor does at the higher RPM is that there's no mucking about, right? If you want full throttle, the car will give you full throttle straight away because it doesn't have to fiddle around and go, oh, a bit more air, a bit more fuel, oh, there we go, now the fuel mixture's right. And what that in turn translates to is you can really hammer through gears with this car. You can see just how quickly the car responds when you change into the next gear. The disadvantages of the KFlash tune is because it is closed loop, while it will probably be a little bit safer for your engine because it's always reading what the O2 sensor is doing and always is refueling the engine even at the higher RPMs to make sure that it's not leaning out. The disadvantage is that you can't really bang gears quite as well, simply just down to the fact that the car has to refuel itself and go and sort of get the fuel right, which takes time and reduces some of your throttle response. So if it's very quick to go down gears, but if I, go in third gear here and try and bang it into fourth like I would with the Serge tune, see there's that little gap, there's that hesitation a little bit. You could tell the car had to take a moment to get the fueling of the engine right. In the case of the Serge tune, the pros, you can bang gears at higher RPMs, and it just is generally a little bit more easy to drive. The disadvantages, because it is open loop, while you can shift faster at higher RPMs, it's probably not as good for your engine because the car doesn't know what it's doing all the time. It generally feels a little more woolen, if you want to go down gears. The KFlash one is just way quicker to rev up, less rev hang. And there's no pops and bangs on the Serge one either. The pros of the KFlash tune, it makes more power and torque. You can rev match down gears faster, there's less rev hang. When you're going up gears, you have pops and bangs. And it's a little bit safer for your engine because it's always reading that O2 sensor. I suppose the only disadvantage is that it is a little harder to bang gears because, of course, it has to sort of refuel the engine. But either way, if I were to summarize who should buy each tune, I would say the Serge tune would suit somebody with a manual Accord Euro like mine, because of course, the throttle is a little easier to control, and being able to bang gears for me, I think, is quite important. The KFlash tune though would definitely be a lot more suited to Euro R, where the throttle doesn't make any difference because it's cable, and to any automatic Accord Euro because it makes more power and torque. And I drove an automatic Accord Euro that had exactly the same mods as mine with the KFlash tune on it, and it was fantastic. But either way, either one of these tunes is going to be great. It's going to make a big difference to your car. You get pops and bangs, you get really high RPM, lots more power and torque. Just listen to this. Listen, this one, the KFlash one goes to 8. Oh, wow, that revs. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Kiwi Car Life. And if you want to see the first video that I did when I first tuned my car, then click over here. And if you want to see me installing a header on this thing that makes it sound amazing and gains a significant amount of power, then click over here. And I'll look forward to seeing you again next time.